Evie and Edmont, you are taking the unconscious boy kind of to a place like within eyeshot of the Lucky Moorings, so when your companions emerge, you can take him over to the cathedral?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay.
I mean, we could either take him to Platin, or we can, once we're all back together, we can wake the kid up and try to interrogate him. I don't know how that's going to go.
You could take him to Platin now, but you couldn't do it without other Athars at the cathedral knowing.
I think we want to let Ekon take the lead on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not saying it's suspicious or a bad thing necessarily. It's just not something you're going to be doing.
I mean, ideally, you would have put him out for about an hour, so hopefully our friends can extricate themselves.
I hit him pretty hard. He's not going to wake up anytime soon.
So, eventually the captain does join you in the room. The thugs kind of get control of the scene. The patrons that are still left on board are up above the deck. Everybody else is kind of trespassed off. The other boat employees as well, they're kind of corralled all together. When the captain arrives, it becomes clear very quickly, very evidently, that he did not know what Orin was. He is beside himself with anger and revulsion as the creature Orin has turned into is this horrible, monstrous, essentially humanoid lizard with these massive claws covered in Victor's blood. And these sharp, jagged teeth. And these horrible red eyes with no pupil. The captain tells you, in no uncertain terms, that he had no idea that his man was a glamored unseelie.
Well, I mean, the church doesn't generally... We all make failings in life, and something like that, obviously you were deceived. So I don't think we'll find any fault on your part as long as his action, as long as he was properly vetted.
Well, we knew from our investigation that the captain was a little on the underside of helping Orin with the stuff he was doing. Or was that just the thugs that we were aware of doing that?
You had met a couple of Orin's strong arms. I don't think you know much of anything about how the captain falls on that spectrum.
Okay.
I got the sense that the captain was kind of oblivious, like, to everything that was going on.
Actually, all three of you can go ahead and roll individual insight checks during your conversation with the captain.
I put my...
Be a 14 for Victor.
Same here.
That's a 20.
Jeannie, you're not convinced the captain had any part of Orin's criminal dealings up and down the river, but you would be surprised if he was oblivious to it. Because some of the crimes that you guys had unearthed, some of the things that you had heard, which one of you had done the investigation where you actually went out and found the guy and paid him off? Evie did that? These are crimes of some serious magnitude. And they were happening pretty commonly from what you understand. He was careful not to do these kinds of things in Brennanine, but you definitely get the impression that the captain was willing to look the other way on that as long as he was doing a good job in his role on the ship, which by all accounts he was. However, the conversation you're having with him now gives you the impression the captain is willing to cop to whatever crimes he's going to be charged with and do whatever he can to throw himself on the mercy of the church, basically.
Yeah, and look, if you want to, again, the transgressions of an inhuman creature like that are beyond men, but I would definitely make sure that anything else that you know that this man was capable of, anything, and he and any of his accomplices that were involved should all need to come to light in order for this to be made right, and greater heresies not to fall on you personally.
I mean, like, Jeannie was gonna whisper to Ekon, like, he had to have known.
Victor is basically not
like
leaving, but
not the unseelie thing, but the rape and murder and kidnapping.
Victor is accusing the guards and the captain of, how could you let this creature on the boat? How could you not know about this? Do you have any idea what's been going on?
If you guys took some serious time, they would probably allow you to question the guards one by one to get a sense of which ones might have been his accomplices. But it's very clear none of them knew he was unseelie. And also, over the course of the next few minutes, nobody can find the boy, who is Orin's closest confidant. You learn that the boy's name was Deshai, and most of the thugs saw Evie turn on and stab him during the fight. But now they don't have any idea where he got off to. He must have slinked away or something.
To which Victor is now accusing the captain and the crew of having more than just one unseelie captain on board.
Are there guards coming?
Oh yeah, city guards will be here in a few moments because the alarm was raised.
Victor's goal was trying to keep the captain and his crew disoriented and distracted until the actual city guard comes.
Will the church be sending people?
Probably not immediately. And it's very likely, Ekon, that you will have great latitude in determining how the church approaches this problem.
Okay.
Like, it's really going to matter whether you go back and say, this is Captain so-and-so, he was harboring an unseelie creature aboard his vessel, versus, unbeknownst to Captain so-and-so, there was an unseelie creature aboard his vessel.
Okay.
Victor, you managed to start creating some strife between the thugs. They are pointing fingers. This guy worked really close with Orin. I knew that he went to shore. No. This other guy, I knew that he brought girls back for him. So yeah, you managed to sow some strife. Give me another insight check, the three of you, now that this is happening. Just roll the die right there in the middle of all the people. Just right there. Just knock them all over.
He got me an 18.
That's an 8.
11.
So that 18, that stays at 18 with your insight?
Yeah.
Okay. Over the course of this bickering back and forth, the captain doesn't take up anyone's part, but you see the twinkle in his eyes. He sees this as an opportunity. He has no problem selling out all of these guys if it comes to that. He knows, and you know, because the captain he's a very, very wealthy man. He's the owner of this ship. He's well regarded in Brennanine. His word is going to be worth more than all of these thugs combined. If he's able to throw all of them under the bus in order to come out of this a little bit cleaner, he will absolutely do it and then recrew the boat from a different pool of men. So you've just done him a great favor.
So, wait, and am I understanding this right? Orm was your machinist.
Yeah,
he had some skill in maintaining the ship.
The tables or the whole ship?
Well, the tables don't have any machinery. Except the roulette. I mean, I imagine he would keep it well oiled.
Well, we're obviously going to have to get a very detailed inspection on all the mechanical inner workings of the ship to make sure none of them were formed with unseelie magic.
He's willing to cooperate.
Whatever blueprints
100%.
and diagrams we can get our hands on. And I'll probably need to have a guild shipwright do a full inspection.
Genie says, "Oh, I happen to be a full guild shipwright."
Victor is going to lean over to the captain and say, while we're at it, you need to show us your vault as well to make sure everything's still intact.
So at Genie's insistence that... so Genie, you had graduated... You're not actually a shipwright, though.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm like a full guild... I'll say I don't want to insinuate that I'm something I'm not.
Okay.
I just want to say, I could do that.
You would be qualified probably to...
investigate the mechanicals, but not the ship itself.
You'd be qualified to go over the individual machines, provided you have access to the schematic and a basic understanding of how they work. This is something that would probably take you a couple of days, because you'd have to learn how the machine works and then do an examination of it.
I previously had a basic understanding, at least enough to disable the devices from a previous check, if that counts for anything.
Yeah, from when you set your familiar down in the engine room, yes?
No, from when I asked for blueprints from the guild. and then I studied them.
Oh, that's right. You've already had access to those schematics. Then yeah, you have, as long as you have the schematics with you, you'd be absolutely qualified to go over and do a once over all the machinery on the ship. When Victor asks to see the vault, the captain does get cagey. He insists that he will cooperate with the city guard and the church in whatever is requested from him, but he cannot, in good conscience, give you access to the vault without a proper display of authority. And he is very apologetic about this.
That makes sense. We'll definitely have to have magical truth detection, and also the danger of any unseelie artifact that might have been sealed away in there is quite great. So we'll have to have some actual Aethar in here before we even consider opening it again.
Well,
it should be locked as a security precaution to make sure no one can get in.
Okay.
Victor kind of elbows Ekon in the ribs as he says this.
So at this point in the conversation, the city guard does start showing up. Some of the other patrons of the ship have dragged them back. There are 2 dead civilians, just lesser members of the nobility, that died during the creature's breath attack. The guard is going to take control of the ship and basically ensure that it doesn't go anywhere, that the engines remain cold, and that the ship's captain and employees remain aboard until they can do an investigation. Ekon, they defer to you as to what is done with the creature.
Ekon, I have a couple words if you listen.
Go for it.
One, I'm whispering this away from everybody. Like, I'm taking Ekon into a corner.
Yeah, you can do that while the guards are taking control of the situation.
Captain knew, like, what was going on here.
Okay,
like, with the thing, for sure. And he may not be an unseelie creature, but I think he fits the definition of what you were sent here to do.
No, I agree. I think we can maybe use the threat of the greater heresy of harboring such a creature to get the mundane crimes properly hung on him.
And I think all the crew that was complicit is also.
And Ekon just nods. I think the guard are more than capable of dealing with that.
Victor is talking to the guard while they're off.
But while you're doing that, I'm going to use this opportunity to, and she just points at the over here.
Okay.
And she goes down to where the engine is.
So you're going to slip below deck?
Oh yeah, 100%.
One of the guards is going to go along with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
What should I make a religion check to figure what the proper way to dispose of a corpse of this sort of creature would be, or do I just know that?
It depends on a lot of factors. The main factor kind of depends on what Ekon wants the outcome to be. Because you could go to the church and you could, like, your word is going to carry a lot of weight with them, because you're the one who uncovered this whole plot, as far as what the captain and the rest of the crew knew, what should be done with this body now. Because you are a fully ordained Aethar. You're kind of in charge of the operation at this point. If you go and say this body needs to be burned, then they'll probably burn it right away.
I would say it needs to be preserved for evidence until at least an initial judgment has been made. But it also needs to be secured such that it can't be used for any more foul magics.
So there's a couple different ways you can have it secured. It kind of boils down to 3 options, unless you think of something else you want. If you want it destroyed right away, that can be done. If you want it secured kind of as evidence in case anybody disbelieves the story and doesn't want the charges to stick, you can roll out the horrible lizard man, and there he is for all to see. In that case, they would probably just find a cold cell to wrap the corpse up in, and they'd send an acolyte down for gentle repose once a day to make sure it doesn't rot away. The third thing is you could turn the creature over to Platin or one of your other contacts in the church, essentially for autopsy and study.
I think I'll do the gentle repose for now with the intent of handing it to a member of the church for study afterwards.
Okay.
Jeannie before Jeannie slips underground, she'll ask you, and she'll look at the body and says, "Can we get any magical reagents from that?"
That would be why you turn it over for autopsy and study.
Right.
Unseelie creatures are horrific, and they are enemies of all good Aetherine, but they're also a very good source for
No,
magical powders and potions
it's not.
and poultices.
It's not. The question was not, can we, like, harvest anything from this? No, can we get anything from this corpse?
So the answer to that question is going to be yes, if Ekon wants to.
Okay, all right. That was a very pointed, get me something from that corpse, Ekon.
Right.
She pokes her head back out like, the dick, I want the dick.
God. So Victor is
Use it to make a +1 spell focus.
Victor is going to essentially tell the guards about all the evils that the henchmen have been doing to try and get them arrested.
Okay.
And then
As you tell the story, the guards, I mean, they essentially just have them, make them disarm, they have them sit around one of the tables, and they stand guard over them.
And so while the guards are doing that, and as the captain is watching this, Victor's going to walk back over to the captain and just kind of lean in and say, so, about that vault.
No, the captain's not willing to let you into the vault.
Then Victor will go talk to the guards and tell them all about the captain's suspected complicity.
Okay. So all three of you are remaining on the ship for the near future. Like, over the course of the next...
I will send my familiar out to go find my cousin and my brother.
Yeah, you find them. They're just a few blocks away. So like this, like Edmont from this position can like peer out from the alleyway and look down on the docks where the mooring is docked.
Victor is going to attempt to wait until the guards get this all wrapped up and see if he can remain on ship alone to go investigate the vault.
So after about an hour or so, as Jeannie is down poking around the engine room with the schematics, and Victor is trying to weasel his way into the vault, and I mean, Ekon, you're just fielding a lot of questions right now.
Yeah.
After about an hour, the boy does start to come around, where you've got him hunched up against the wall. Edmont and Evie, what are you doing about it?
Evie, you got rope to bind him?
Yeah.
Somebody just binding his hands behind his back or something?
Well, he was a spellcaster. We need to stop his mouth. We need to gag him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if he comes up and say, listen, we're going to figure this out, okay? Don't try anything stupid.
I mean, you also find his, the spell focus on his person.
Oh, he had a spell focus? Yeah, we'll take that away from him.
Yeah.
It was a relic of some kind. It's just a small wand. But it has 7 interlocking sections, each of which, it's a cylindrical device, and each of which can be rotated. And there are notches and markings, and you don't understand their significance. But it almost looks like a puzzle device at first. But I mean, playing around with it for a minute, you don't figure out anything to do with it. But it's clearly a spell focus.
I'm going to stow it until one of our spellcasters can take a better look at it than I.
Okay.
And Evie says, look, we already didn't kill you. Just don't do anything to make this worse. You understand?
I mean, he's slumped down in the alley with his hands bound behind his back and a gag in his mouth. And he doesn't give you any response. He just locks his eyes onto yours. He doesn't even give you a nod.
Like if he doesn't try anything, then we're good, I think.
Don't start none, won't be none?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I already took him out in one hit. He should understand how this is going to go.
After, so I can check in with the familiar every now and then, just cast my sight into it. I'll have the familiar come back, and I will write up a note for Platten detailing that, the details of just say, destroyed the creature, subdued this boy, believe we, oh, sorry, Victor, subdued this boy, believe you should have speak with him, and I'll have my familiar deliver that to, Platten.
Okay.
Platten? Not the people with the boy?
No, because then he'll come back. Because you guys can't get in with, right? Like the whole point is
They can't get
You don't
in.
have an in with the church,
Right.
so if I send a note, then maybe we can get him to show up in his night robes and meet you guys somewhere.
They can get in. They just can't get in without being noticed.
Correct.
Right.
They can approach the cathedral, but at the very least, they would have to speak with a lower
And
acolyte. Or a
the
clerk.
note will include their location.
Okay. Then yeah, after another hour passes, during which the boy holds your gaze for as often as you allow him.
Ew.
It's extremely unsettling.
Evie doesn't shy away from it. She's not afraid of him.
But he doesn't struggle against his bonds, and after almost another hour, Aethar Pladden does show up, wearing the same clothing as he was the other night. And he approaches from the complete opposite direction of the cathedral. You've got the boy hunkered down.
I'll mention to him that, Ekon, my brother's still dealing with the authorities.
Then the creature is dead.
Yeah.
Orin Twist is.
Put it down with my own hand.
And he kneels down next to the boy. And the boy turns his gaze, staring at Pladden.
This child tried to get into my mind.
We don't know that he was complicit in Twist's crimes, but he is not human.
No, he's very much a liar, as far as his appearance goes.
What do you want to do with him?
We were hoping maybe you could shed some light on that.
He asks the boy some questions. Ask him his name. Oh, he takes the gag out of his mouth first. Ask the boy
Be
some
careful,
questions.
he's a spellcaster.
Well, he can't cast spells without his focus, remember.
Okay.
In this setting, you need to have your relic in your hand.
All right.
Even if the spell doesn't call for material components. But no, he asked the boy his name, how long he's been serving aboard the ship, if he knows about the crimes that were committed, and the boy just remains silent the entire time.
That's about the amount of information we've been able to get.
Mm-hmm.
Pladden stands back up. Says, I may have other resources that can be brought to bear. Do you have somewhere to take him? They would know he won't be seen.
I mean, we can't take him back to we can't have a creature like this back in our manor.
Compound. That may be our only option, though.
We could try the bookstore, maybe?
So,
Potentially.
what do you tell Pladden?
It's still, bookstore is under our family's management now. It's currently not open for businesses. We're trying to basically get a handle on the business, and then once we were planning to reopen it, once we've gotten an accounting of the material within.
So you're going to take the boy back to the bookstore?
There's a living space above it. I think that should serve our purposes well enough.
I think that's our best option, because we can't take him back to the manor.
Pladden
He needs to be guarded.
Agreed.
Says, very well. I'll pay a call on you there within the next couple of days.
A couple days. We would need to have him be guarded at all times.
He shrugs. His last I saw, there were 5 of you.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll figure it out. Thank you, Aethar.
He nods. He says, very well done. And he leaves you. So you're taking the boy back to the bookshop?
Yes.
Get him
we
across
need
town.
Okay, let me check my notes for something here.
Somewhat, we might be able to bring in Jeannie's 2 goons on this, because they seem entirely trustworthy after they helped us kidnap a woman and disappear her.
Well, she only has one goon now because one of them left with the librarian.
If you guys blow up my bookshop, I'm gonna be really upset.
Okay, we're gonna try not to do that. I mean, this is the best option I can see.
Edmund, please keep my bookshop safe.
As long as he does not, he's bound. He's doesn't have his spell focus. I don't know that he can do anything right now.
So the next day, because the guards are keeping the captain and the various employees aboard the ship for now, Ekon, you will be able to come back and assist with the questioning if you so like. You're also going to be responsible for presenting the captain to give a statement at the cathedral tomorrow if you grant him that opportunity. And then that's going to determine kind of how the church looks at his fate. Also,
do I get more control over it if I do that? Like, what happens if I don't?
Then they'll just probably ask you separately whether his account was true, and then take your word over his, most likely.
No, I'll totally be there for that then.
Okay. A representative of House Van Hild. House Van Hild is currently their house. The patriarch of their house is High Tradesman, which is one of the 3 political rulers of Brennanine.
He's a friend of Nigel's, right?
He is an old adventuring buddy of Nigel. He's gone on expeditions with him in the past. House Van Hild isn't politically very powerful. They're not a very old house, and they don't hold many lands in Gran Francisco, but they're very, very wealthy. And because they hold the position of High Tradesman, a representative of their house will be dispatched here in order to make an accurate account of the vault. The reason they're doing this is because depending on the church's findings, some percentage of the vault might be forfeit as reparations. If the captain is allowed to retain ownership of the vessel, he still might be required to pay some amount of money to the church for, if not the crime of harboring this man, the crime of not uncovering him in time, essentially. It's not your fault that he was there, but it is your fault that he operated for so long right under your nose, kind of thing. A lot of that's going to depend on what Ekon says. Jeannie, if you're still working on this the next day, you'll be joined by members of House Balk.
I mean, Jeannie stayed all night.
But
she did not go home.
In the morning, after you take a level of exhaustion,
right?
Members of House Balk show up, and
Jeannie, how? So if Jeannie started taking pieces of the engine apart,
okay. The engine itself is in working order. It's cold when you went down to... Cold in the sense that the ship wasn't ready to sail immediately. However, your suspicions are confirmed when you start disassembling parts of the gaming tables upstairs. There were machinist parts installed to do things like flip and hide cards. The roulette wheel could be manually operated by a foot pedal concealed underneath a panel at the floor level. Basically, the games could be rigged. There were sliding magnets underneath one of the tables to cause magnetic dice to come up certain ways. The captain, of course, disavows all knowledge of this, but he's getting very nervous now.
Oh, these guys are going up the fucking river.
But yeah, it looks like if it was true that Orin was a machinist, he had rigged a lot of these games.
I will write a report to that effect, and then I will start disassembling the engine just because I want to disassemble the engine. With the pretext that I was told, and this is true, this is not a deception, this is me, like, I was told by Athar Ekon to look over the parts for unsealing enchantments.
As Jeannie is doing this, Victor will wander down there at some point and mention that he would like her help with the vault when she's finished.
Like, just... Why... We have money.
It's not about the money. It's about what else is in there.
So you're not going to be able to get into the vault until the next day unless you're going to try to defy the guards and then break into the vault door yourself.
just wait, and then
Yeah,
we'll go in there with Ekon.
Exactly. I'm just gonna wait, and then we'll sneak back on board and do it.
Jeannie's not going home tonight to take a long rest. Is everybody else going home tonight?
I don't think Ekon is either.
Okay.
Is the first level? What's the first level of exhaustion?
First level of exhaustion is you got disadvantage on ability checks.
Ooh, can't have that.
No,
But I will sleep in a requisitioned room inside on this boat.
Okay.
Victor's also gonna sleep on the boat.
like Evie and I should probably take alternating watches in the apartment.
Okay. Everybody can take a long rest except for Jeannie, and Jeannie, you can take a level of exhaustion. So by the time, early in the morning when representatives of House Bulk get there, probably people you know, either in passing acquaintance or by reputation, because you did go to their school. And you've got big parts of his engine disassembled and clearly labeled and organized out on the lower deck. In such a way that it's not broken, right? You're going to be able to reassemble.
I'm not trying to break it. My end goal is very similar to Victor's.
Okay.
I want to take this engine home with us. I'm trying. Like, listen, like that's what I just want you to know. That's probably not going to happen, but that's what Jeannie's trying to swing.
If that's what you guys want to happen, then you're going to have to convince Ekon to sell this captain out to the church.
Victor will absolutely try and convince Ekon of that.
In that case, what would happen is the captain's property would be forfeit to the church, and then House Veritas, being on the scene, could make big claims to the property.
Right.
If not outright ownership on some of it, but...
No. I want a gambling boat, Victor. I want this boat.
I agree. The captain is a bad man. We know that he's been lying. We know he's most likely got unseelie artifacts in the vault based on his reaction.
I don't know about the unseelie artifacts thing, but like real talk, all agreed aside, the captain knew about the rape and murder and
exactly. And we don't know for sure if he didn't know he was unseelie, but even if he didn't, he definitely is a corrupt individual.
So here's what that would look like legally speaking if Ekon goes along with it. Presuming that Ekon goes to the cathedral and tells the church that the captain was in on it, and the captain is found guilty, stripped of his possession and his command, what would then happen would an investigation would go through to find out who the injured parties were. Not necessarily the people that were hurt up and down the river, but rather the lords of those estates. Who controls those lands would all be found to have some recompense from the ship's vault. If House Veritas wanted to keep the ship intact, they would probably have to buy out everybody else who had some claim to the captain's treasure.
Then I'll just take the engine. I'll take the boat. That's fine.
I mean, could we...
I mean, just the engine.
So, okay, I'm looking at this like a bankruptcy case. Can we take... So basically we'd have to pay the delta between the value of what's in the vault versus all of the damages and whatever else is left of the ship itself.
So the church would take some percentage just because that's what they do. As far as cleansing the captain's spirit. That can't be done unless the church takes some percentage. After that, the damaged parties would get to make claims, and if Veritas is not able to buy out the claims, then the ship might have to be kind of disassembled and sold off piecemeal to ensure those claims are met. If you wanted to keep the ship intact, you basically be paying off a lot of lesser lords.
If we could pay off all of those claims from the contents of the vault, could we keep the ship without making much other payments?
Nah, you have no idea. Not the day after this all goes down. This is something
sure, but like mathematically, does that work? Like in theory, legally, would that work if there's enough in the vault? I guess is the question.
It probably wouldn't happen without a considerable investment on Veritas's part out of your house's pocket. Mm-hmm. The good news is convincing Ruby that keeping this extremely expensive ship intact that can make a lot of money up and down the river might not be that difficult.
Yeah, that was my next question. Who wants to ask Ruby for the money to buy the rest of the ship?
Even if it comes to the tune of a few thousand pieces of gold to pay the delta, or whatever big math word you used.
So, what Ekon wants to do is he wants to get a confession from the captain and all of the men aboard for everything aside from the supernatural crimes. You know, they were all clearly complacent in everything else, and then he will speak on their behalf that he believes that they were not intentionally harboring an unsalient creature. However, for all due proper inspection, we must first look at every piece of magic aboard the ship to make sure none of it is unsalient in origin, take any that is, and the rest can be done with as the church wishes, which is basically what you're describing.
Well, would that be sufficient to get us property of the boat, or does Ekon need to basically have the captain burn?
Well, if the captain's not burned, the captain would retain possession on whatever's left. So Ekon would have to sell the captain up the river first. So
Ekon,
yeah, he would. Literally, not what he's going to do. So
you have to. You were told that we had to come here to cleanse evil, right?
we did.
Except like complacency and like the captain knew what was going on and allowed it to continue.
You were able to determine that the captain almost certainly knew of the crimes and turned a blind eye, but he was not personally complicit in them, and he did not know that Orin was a monster.
Knowing that evil is going on and doing nothing is just as bad as doing evil itself.
Yeah, letting them get away with this for that long, I can't say that that's an innocent behavior.
And if you don't want to take our word, then let's go talk to Platten and let's get his opinion.
So
first off,
it's not something you have to decide right away. This is a process that can go over the next couple of weeks. Immediately the next day, when the tradesmen's guild houses send people over to do an inventory of the vault, the captain gets out the books. At this point, Jeannie has already uncovered the bad gambling tables, which again, the captain disavows any knowledge of. He had no idea that Orin had rigged the gambling tables, and that's going to complicate the whole matter. It puts all the books into question. As for what's actually in the vault, nothing as far as big unseelie magic. Probably more gold than you've ever seen in a single place at a single time. Unless you've been inside of a bank vault, which none of you have.
Gotta have enough on hand to cover all the bets.
Exactly. So incredibly wealthy. And not only that, but just lots of promissory notes from different issuing authorities all up and down the river, and especially here in Brennanine. Lots of notes of debt, credit that has to be called in, but quite a lot of it is just kept in coin. So probably easily 20 or 30,000 just in coin, plus the amount of paper wealth and credit that the captain has on hand. But as far as harboring unseelie artifacts, I mean, you guys go over the engine rooms and all of the different sleeping chambers with detect magic and everything. The only things that you found that weren't just either personal effects or the ship's wealth locked up in the vaults were the vial of green liquid and the map that Orin kept on his person.
Listen to me, Ekon. I've never asked you for anything in my entire life. I must have this engine. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it.
Your desires aside,
so
he was engaging in legal acts.
This is not a binding referendum, Ekon, but thumbs up or thumbs down on selling out the captain, one at a time.
Thumbs up.
Jeannie, thumbs up. What about Edmont?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Victor's a thumbs up, yes?
Victor's got 2 thumbs up and 2 toes.
Evie, thumbs up on selling out the captain?
It sounds like these guys either knew about it or were pretending they didn't know about it, and to me, I think that's a thumbs up.
So, Ekon, I mean, you know where your companions stand, but you're the one who has to give the report.
Let me make sure I have all this in my head correct. So basically, for the actual non-magical crimes they've committed, they'll kind of get a slap on the wrist. At least the captain.
I mean, the thugs by the end of the second day are all taken into custody.
Thugs. Yeah, obviously that's gonna.
They're going to be imprisoned, and
Yep.
it's going to go very badly for them. The captain can probably pay his way out of those crimes, depending on how many of them stick, and depending on how many of these noble houses learned that they were cheated out at his tables.
Ooh. Actually, do I think I can... So, do I think that if I tried to get in contact with set in motion things to get in contact with all of the noble houses about how these tables were cheating, though, I wouldn't need to lie about the magical crimes to get the captain to be stripped of property? and
So
power.
he might end up having to pay more out in his damages to all these various houses that have been tricked than he's currently got in coin. And if that's the case, he might have to sell the ship. If he has to sell the ship, then Veritas can swoop in and buy it from him. Or it could be disassembled piecemeal, and then you could just buy the engine or whatever other pieces strike your fancy.
But the captain would basically still be a free man at the end of that?
Most likely, yeah.
Okay. I happen to know an incorrigible set of gossips. Who would be more than willing to spread this juicy.
Don't worry, that's already happening, because remember that room was filled with...
2 people died in that room.
Yeah, two nobles died in that room.
It's the talk of the town over the course of the next few days. You're buying yourselves a lot of currency with this.
Well, I mean, but dude, is it general knowledge? It's not general knowledge that they were cheating, though. Or is it?
Not unless you guys... Not yet. That's a juicy little tidbit that you've got.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, is I happen to know 2 very... very gossipy women.
Everyone in town will know in 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yes.
Ekon, given what we've seen about how things work in the city, the only way this captain is going to face true justice is if you throw him under the bus.
I mean, we can. It doesn't have to be a bus. We could just switch to a car.
At the end of the day,
wagon.
His crimes are terrible, but I don't think they are entirely irredeemable. I will do everything in my power to make sure that he suffers the maximum extent, but I am not going to claim that he...
Have you seen his vault? Whatever you do, short of letting them know that he had part in this whole Unseelie event, he will buy his way out of it, and he will be walking free so that he can go get a new crew and continue his raping, pillaging, and cheating up and down the river. Is that where you want to place yourself? Do you want to be the one that enabled him to continue these horrific actions against the advice and thoughtfulness and suggestions of your own mentor? How do you think Blind is going to feel?
I see Victor suddenly has a very strong conscience when he has something to gain out of it.
I also noticed that.
I will personally, as the person who helped bring him to justice, advise that part of the contract for his allowed to not be burned be that he must not be allowed to buy a new ship.
He must surrender the ship that he
assume
currently
command
has.
of men in the future.
Edmont,
the church and the state must forbid it, and that will have to be part of his contract. And that that is the most I can do for you.
Okay.
Treble, you were saying something?
I was gonna ask Edmont, like, because this is like severe, like, brother getting into religion thing. What do you think?
Edmund takes a very dim view of crimes of those that nature. He can't the captain's has been complicit in cheating people, and also all of the rape and pillaging and all theft and all that kind of stuff. This is
my
not,
read is
this
Edmund.
is not good. This is not good, and that's why Edmund is all for throwing the book at this guy.
I mean, my read on Edmund is like everyone else. He thinks I should lie about the magical crimes in order to get him punished for the non-magical crimes.
I don't necessarily think you should lie about the magical crimes. I think we should do whatever we can to get this man ruined.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, okay.
That's probably what stands to happen. Like, he probably won't be locked up in a dungeon like these thugs are, but at the end of it, if you play your cards right, you can make sure that he's financially ruined to the point where he has to sell the ship.
Yeah,
right? And if that happens, that's when Veritas can swoop in.
Sort of reprimand that he can no longer own a ship or command men. I don't want him to have any power.
Yeah, that's definitely a determination you could make.
All right, I'm good for that.
All right. The next time you guys meet with Platin, because you're keeping the boy up in the bookshop.
Yeah.
So we'll say it comes to pass after about 2 days, when Platin pays a call in the bookshop very late at night. You have word ahead of time that he's going to be coming on what night. He shows up in the cover of darkness. Again, dressed in his non-Aethar clothing. The black cloak. The big heavy boots. when he comes into the bookshop, has anybody told him there's a secret passage under the bookshop leading to Veritas Estate?
I think we're going to keep that under our hat.
Not yet, but I think
that's need to know information. He doesn't need to know that.
Yeah.
During those few days, do you give the boy food and water?
Yeah.
If he eats it.
He doesn't. Nor does he take water.
Well, we'll offer it.
Nor does he defecate. Nor does he sleep.
I mean, he's not human. I think this is not surprising.
Yeah, after like 3 days without water, if I make a medicine check, does he seem to be dehydrated?
Go ahead and make that check.
Okay.
Victor is going to try and have conversations with this boy through these couple days.
And he does not converse with you. He says nothing.
Yeah, no, there's no way we couldn't get him to talk for anything.
At some point in all this, am I able to resummon my familiar?
Yeah, if you take a long rest.
Yeah, okay.
And
that's a medicine of 6.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 10.
The best reaction you get out of the boy is he locks eyes with you as long as you allow him to. And he blinks, but not nearly as often as you do. Platin tells you, is anybody here trained in history?
Yes.
I am.
Might be.
If you're trained in history, you probably already have some sense of mythological creatures long before the days that humans were brought into the world. Back in the days when the elven empires on the seas and in the forests and the dwarven empires deep beneath the earth were fighting one another. And the greatest of the unseelie creatures that troubled both of those communities back in mythological times were the great reptilian beasts called the dragons.
Wow.
In this setting, you guys would give you would think of the word dragon much like we would on Earth. These are creatures that probably never existed, but there are lots and lots of stories about them, and every culture has their own kind of spin on them. Mm-hmm. But ferocious, nigh unkillable monsters that can breathe all different manner of horrible things. Some breathe fire and some ice. And there's all different types and stories, and separating the fiction from the mythology from what actually happened is basically impossible. That said, Platin thinks that Orin was an offshoot of a modern version of one of these creatures.
So you're saying that these creatures actually were real?
Perhaps at some point in the long past.
Well, something was certainly real.
Something birthed it.
He tells you that the Urivel salt that he gave you, that you used, because he doesn't know you guys botched the first attempt.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to tell him that.
We're going to keep that a secret.
No, we're going to keep that one.
We can have a laugh over drinks in about 20 years on that one.
It's a type of magical salt, particularly attuned to destroying the glamour that draconian creatures wear to blend in with humans.
You're saying these things could blend in with...
You saw the same thing I did.
Fitz did it.
So yeah, he's been looking into Orin's dealings on several of his visits to Brennanine, and he was planning on dispatching the creature in secret on this visit. But a few weeks ago, Ekon gave him pause, and he saw the opportunity to bring Ekon and his trusted companions in on the work instead.
That's distressing, because if there's one of them, and Ekon casts a glance at presumably the, like say we're talking in the bookstore itself, and Ekon looks upstairs, implying the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying there's more. How much salt do you have? Would it be possible to contaminate the water supply to ferret them out?
He shakes his head and says that he wouldn't do that even if he had the resources. He says there are more unseelie creatures living here in Brennanine that he has no problem with. That live their lives and maintain their glamours and don't trouble anyone or commit crimes against the citizens, and there's no reason to bring limited resources to bear against people that don't deserve it.
And the church is okay with this?
Unless the church is largely ignorant of such things.
He tells you, and he kind of glances sideways at Ekon when he answers. He tells you that the church is unaware of his work. That very few Aethars do the important work that he does nowadays.
But is the church aware of the situation that you're discussing?
Perhaps some, in some capacity.
Well,
He shrugs and says he doesn't have much interest in church politics.
There are laws in the church that those who are caught consorting with unseelie creatures are to sometimes be punished, sometimes severely. Is it all right to let unseelie creatures live among people who would consort with them without knowledge and risk the wrath of the church?
There are different degrees of heresy. And if such a relationship were to come out, you would hopefully either conceal it if it was, in ignorance or,
Wait.
There's evil.
Ekon, wait. You're telling me it's okay to conceal... So you're okay with concealing or, let's say, lying about this, but you're not okay with bringing a man to justice?
I'm certain the captain is going to face a lot of justice. Believe me.
Platin seems to acknowledge Ekon's answer. He seems pleased with it. And he looks back to Evie. Says, the problem with dogma is that from a distance it all looks so very simple.
Evie nods.
So Platin confides in you two things. The first is that he deliberately did not tell you everything he knew about. He just told about Orin. He told you just enough that you guys had to figure it out on your own.
I don't think that's very surprising.
To see how, because he knew he was a Draconian. He knew the exact purpose of what the Salts were going to do. He knew the nature of his breath weapon.
Your lack of information almost got me killed. I hope you have a way to recompense.
That kind of just barely stifles a laugh at that.
He tells Victor that if almost getting killed is going to be too big of a problem for him going forward, then he's not cut out for the work.
No, almost getting killed because somebody willingly withholding information. That's the problem.
He shrugs and says that if he needed minions, he could have hired them. He didn't want minions. He wanted to see if you could think on your feet. He wanted to see if you could...
He sent you a companion you can heal your wounds at a glance. And Ekon, just barely concealing how much he wants to laugh at that.
Remind me again why the rest of us are here. We know why you're here.
Platin tells you that...
Our cousin Jeannie was incinerated by something. I was beaten to almost within an inch of my life. Victor had whatever happened to him. Are we just all going to be... Are we all going to be pawns in this? Because that's not what I came to Brennan for.
You're asking Platin this?
I'm looking more at Ekon when he says this.
The same with Victor. Like, how exactly is this helping our house, Ekon?
Do you know first of all, I wasn't doing this for our house. You've been trying to go play both sides the whole time. You've been trying to say we should do this for our house now, when up until now you've been trying to convince me that I need to lie to the church to get someone who's so terrible.
Because that benefits our house, and it also makes Jeannie happy.
Yes, and that's why I've been working to both benefit our house and make Jeannie happy, and do something about evil being protruded in this city.
Platin watches the conversation. He stays silent, but he leans back in his chair, lights a cigar, and just watches the debate. He's got a huge grin on his face, as though he's enjoying the back and forth.
Evie says, Aethar, I'm sorry you have to hear this.
Ruby might be buying that ship. I'm pretty sure that helps the house. It definitely makes Jeannie happy. Jeannie can get married on that ship.
Jeannie would marry the ship.
That's not what shipping means.
Platin says simply that the point of the work is neither gold nor glory. That does not mean that gold nor glory cannot be found.
And Evie says, Aethar Platin, does destroying creatures like this protect my family?
Your family? I doubt it. Orin never had designs on House Veritas or any of its members. Unless one of your lesser lordlings was fleeced at his table, but then you could afford to eat that sort of loss. I imagine his women, your women were safe from his gaze, and your men were safe from his minions' truncheons. I would say no. He probably meant you and yours no harm whatsoever.
And these unseelie creatures that you're seeking to destroy, do they contain unseelie artifacts whose fetching and returning to the church would benefit our house's reputation?
He shrugs and says, sometimes. And he shakes his head. He says, the nature of the work is you cannot predict ahead of time the outcome. Sometimes you unlock a box and it's full of gold. Sometimes you unlock a box and it's full of air.
And what's the likelihood of finding a box to begin with?
He tells you you'd have to ask somebody whose interest in the work is finding boxes. That's never been his design.
At any rate, what do you know about the boy? So he was some sort of ancient dragon. I can get that. The boy definitely, he pinged through air sight as some sort of aberrant? I never even saw that in training.
And Platin is mystified. He wasn't suspicious of the boy as anything but one of Orin's hirelings, is surprised to learn that the boy isn't human, and has no idea what he is or what to do with him.
At that point, Edmont would speak up and describe the feeling of whatever the boy was doing as it was trying to penetrate my mind. I was able to shake it loose, but I definitely did hear something coming from him in my mind.
Platin looks to Ekon. Says, you chose to undertake this work in the open rather than in the shadows. So it does seem as though you're going to have to resolve all of the loose ends. Shrugs, the boy's fate is entirely in your hands. What you choose to do with him is something you're going to have to live with from this day forward.
I'm gonna think for a second and nod. Yeah, that seems right.
I will only say that if I had come across the boy's aberrant nature in my own investigation, I would simply dispatch him. He seems completely unremorseful for his part in the crimes. Clearly not human. Clearly unseelie creature of some kind. I see no benefit in letting him live.
It's expressed nothing of remorse or anything at all of what he was involved in.
Yeah.
What if he's incapable of expressing emotion? Are you assuming that these unseelie creatures all behave like humans?
The good news about the ones that don't is you don't really have to feel too much yourself if you destroy them. Like, a literal devil you can just burn away and it'll form back in hell or whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. If you guys have nothing else for Platin, where he basically leaves it, is he gives you a commendation on the job well done. He has no idea. Well, he has no idea that you botched it the first time, but also the way he was talking about why he withheld his information, he probably expected you to botch at least part of it, and then have to figure it out from there, which you did with flying colors. And you guys have some kind of plan to take at least part of this wealth from the ship back to your house for yourselves. The downside to doing this in the open like you do is that nobody in town is unaware that House Veritas had a hand in bringing down this unseelie creature. Everybody knows that you guys did it. And
I know what our reputation is going to be when we level.
Well, Jeannie's is that she's bad with...
Jeannie's going to be lover of boats.
Poor firearm discipline.
So am I going to be arrested for murdering a child?
You would have been if he wasn't hired by an unseelie monster that everybody saw with their own eyes.
Okay.
No, as far as anybody's concerned, you guys somehow found out that this man was an unseelie creature and went aboard the ship and dispatched him and his accomplice. The accomplice vanished. Nobody knows where he went. But so to get a sense of your goals at this point, Ekon, you're going to basically report to the church that the captain didn't know that Orin was an unseelie creature, but that he was turning a blind eye to all these crimes, and that he's probably complicit in all the cheating and everything that was going on.
Yeah, and also, I'm going to pull the trigger on letting the rumor mill go on that one.
Then yeah, claims start coming out of everybody who's placed a bet on the Lucky Mooring.
And the other thing I want to be very clear about, Brick, is basically as soon as this was public knowledge, I would go to the church and requisition like 100, 200 gold for personal expenditures towards more investigations, and use some of that to pay the guy. Like, I don't want to be in that person's bad graces. That was a very useful contact.
Pay what guy?
The guy who sold us the salt.
Oh, okay.
On credit.
So you're going to take care of that immediately then?
That's immediate, yeah, because that was super useful, and I might need more magic in the future, and Jeannie definitely needs to meet him.
Okay. So you spend some of the social currency you gain with the church to requisition some...
Yeah,
some gold.
I'm actually going to get... Can I get like 300, so I can also get some spell components for myself? Like, as part of the ongoing investigation, I need resources. This is what I think it's going to cost.
Let's call that charisma religion. You can make this add advantage, because you've just done a great thing for the furtherance of the church in taking down an unseelie critter.